I'm here today to talk to you about mental health for Bell Let's Talk Day. Before I begin, I want to let everyone know in this room that this is a safe space and any questions and discussions are highly encouraged. I'm by no means a professional, and I'm just sharing how mental health has affected me. I'm also speaking about some triggering topics today, so if you ever feel uncomfortable, feel free to leave. I will not be offended. Also, if you would like to speak with me after, any information stated to me will be kept confidential. So again, before I begin, I just wanted to share two little comics that I find relate to me and how I experience mental health. So the first one, today I'm talking about anxiety in language. So I have a little comic by Shane Comics, and they're an Instagram artist. And it says, "You seem so happy." Yeah. What if you're forgetting about something really important you have to do today? You see his face drop. Haha, no, it's probably nothing, don't worry about it. And then you see anxiety licking his tears. Yeah, kind of humorous. I also have this picture of a man driving in a snowstorm, and my mother always described anxiety to me through the analogy of everyone's able to drive, everyone has their license, and there's always things you have to look out for. You have to look out for pedestrians, obey signs and laws, street laws. But with someone who's experiencing anxiety, all that becomes heightened because you are driving in a snowstorm constantly with your windshield wipers like half working, half broken, so it's always just that extra struggle. So now I'm going to get into my story. So I just want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'm in my third year here at Mac, and I'm studying communications, and I'm trying to minor in sociology. I've been part of the Mac swim team for 3 years and have been swimming for 11 years. I started club swimming at age 9, and then I swam for my high school team. I have also worked at Disney, which happens to be my favorite place in the whole world. My favorite meal is butter chicken, and my favorite color is pink. I have a sister and an amazing family. However, I also suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. I was officially diagnosed with general anxiety disorder at the age of 11, but I had been doing regular school counseling with teachers I trusted since the time I was about 8. I have only known what it felt like to be anxious and cannot remember a time I really felt normal. This became a huge challenge for me throughout my middle school and high school years. I had very explosive emotions. I wore them on my sleeve. If I was sad, I would cry. If I was angry, I would yell, and so on. I thought because of this, I would never have any friends or be accepted into any group of people. Fast forward to high school, I was still an unstable emotional mess. I didn't understand my anxiety, and it would take me pretty much until the end of my second year to finally get a good grasp on it. Sorry, second year of university. I needed help, but I didn't know what kind of help I needed. I was scared to talk to my friends, thinking I would burden them with my problems. I was too stubborn to listen to my counselors, and I wanted nothing to do with deep breathing. And in all honesty, just unaware of how my mental illness affected me. I found I tried to identify myself with TV show characters and celebrities who were mentally ill. Specifically, I tried to imitate what they did as an attempt to understand my own illness. I related a lot to a British TV show called Skins. I did a lot of the things they did on that show and how people acted around me. So it was like mentally ill people are supposed to be antisocial and quiet. They listen to sad music, dress in black, they smoked, they drank, they did drugs, they inflicted self-harm. All of which I found to be really unhealthy coping mechanisms. I thought that if this is what other people do, I should do it too. It did not help. My mother found out I was inflicting self-harm, and from then we took major steps to try and help me cope with my illness. In grade 10, I thought I found the magic answer: medication. I thought that I wouldn't need to do anything else. I would just take a pill and feel better. That was not the case. I was slowly learning methods to help me throughout my last years of high school, but I still didn't know exactly of what kind of help I needed. By the time I started university, the stress of a new school, living away from home, and being on the swim team seemed like too much, and one drunken night, I almost decided to end it. It was the very next moment I decided to call Good to Talk. I knew I needed a more consistent support system along with my medication and began to seek help. I called hotlines, made appointments with student wellness, and started seeking out resources that could help me. I am now in my 3rd year and found things that work for me to help me cope. I am still on medication. I have changed, added, and removed medication throughout the past few years. I speak with a student wellness counselor bi-weekly and see a doctor monthly for checkups. I also found that my mother is one of my best support systems. In high school, I never really told her much, but she always found out, call it mother's intuition. Another large part of my well-being comes from swimming. Athletics and exercise are a great way to de-stress and focus on something other than worrying. Now, with all that I have accomplished, even though sometimes swimming does cause me some uneasiness, I can overcome it. Now, with all I have accomplished, I still do feel anxious and even depressed. But I am in a new aware state and understand what situations will cause me stress and how I will deal with that anxiety. On that note, I would like to just kind of talk about these pictures. So this is me when I was little and I didn't know what was going on. And then this is me now, and I kind of have a light bulb. I'm kind of understanding my illness, understanding more of what helps me, and just understanding what works for me and how to support myself. I would also like to talk about a specific event that happened to me just this year. It was actually just this past October. I had always struggled with anxiety, but never so much depression. During the last few weeks of October and into early November, I went through a depressive period. I would wake up with an uneasy stomach and a lump in my throat. If I walked, I would feel super heavy, but at the same time like I was walking on a cloud. Many days went by where I could barely get out of bed. I missed many classes and practices. The ones I did manage to go to used up a tremendous amount of energy. During this time, I was having suicidal thoughts. Not so much as in I wanted to kill myself, but I would imagine my death as an escape. I tried to reach out to friends, but I found it hard to articulate my situations and never wanted to make my friends feel burdened by me or get upset with what I had to say. I would only give some parts of the story or how I was feeling to accommodate their emotions. I was able to get a counselor to speak with me. I'm also affected by SAD, interstitial affectionate disorder, which I think kind of played into this part of my life. So I have a sun and therapy lamp to help combat this. I use it every morning. So I was doing all these things you were supposed to do. I was seeking help, I was exercising, I was speaking to my support systems, like my mother and friends, and I was using my sun lamp. However, I was still feeling sad. My doctor finally prescribed me another medication, and I continued doing all what I had been doing. And with the help of this new medication, I began to feel like myself again. I wanted to share this story because it takes desire and strength to seek help and continue to use healthy coping mechanisms, even if they don't seem to be working immediately. So that was kind of my backstory, and as some people like to say, my mental illness does not define me. I would like to say otherwise. My mental illness is a part of me. I accept that I have to work harder than others to overcome this challenge, but I will still reach the end with help, love, and support. Thank you. Before I move on to my next topic, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about what I just spoke about? And that's fine if you don't.
I have one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time people get scared of that initial act of help, like ask me something for help. Even when I think about it, I feel uncomfortable knowing that I have to sit down with someone. Can you talk about what the start of that looks like and how you gain a sense of comfort with that?
Yeah, like I said before, I was very stubborn when talking to counselors, student guidance counselors, and going to therapy. I never really wanted to take the advice they were giving me because I thought, I've done that before, it doesn't work. And right now, I still don't necessarily do deep breathing because I just find that doesn't work for me. My anxiety level is already pretty high, and by the time I realize I need to start taking breaths, I've already, reached the turning point. So I've had to find other methods, but it wasn't until I kept going through counselors until I found someone who really, I just listened to what they said and believed what they said, and I told them what doesn't work for me, and they understood, and they were like, okay, well, let's try this instead. So it is a little, I guess, what's the word? You kind of have to keep trying until you find the perfect fit. So So just this year, I found a counselor at Student Wellness, and I think she fits me really well. We have really great conversations. She understands what I'm trying to say, and when we don't think something is working, she helps me with new methods. So I think you really have to try. Sometimes a whole bunch of different, if you are seeking the therapy route, different counselors to see which one works best for you. I hope that helped answer your question a bit.
Yeah.
Little. Okay. Anyone else before I continue? Okay. So I have a YouTube video here by Mary Walsh, who's one of the, I guess, committee members of the Bell Let's Talk Day. Oh, great. And of course that's not going to work.
Generation that referred to our, a Waterford Hospital for Mental and Nervous Disorders was the name of our hospital, and we called it the Mental. And then we called people who had mental illness mental, and then retired it, and all the words that are no longer acceptable. And I know that I find it difficult sometimes to not use the words because habits are habits. We are people, and people who have mental illness are people, and we lose so much when we throw them over there, when we put them off to the side and call them, lunatics or, mental or whatever. We push people to the side and out of our lives, and we don't see them. And it is we who lose, because so many people who suffer from a mental illness have the answers that we're looking for, have the insight that we need, have the wisdom that we are longing for, and yet we never hear them or see them or listen to them. I'm from that generation that referred to
So now I'm going to move on to talking about some language surrounding mental health. So I know there's still stigma around, but it is slowly decreasing. I bet when I was talking about either my suicide attempt or self-harm, people might have clenched up, but you know what? That's okay. I might have done the same thing while others have told me stories. But what is important is that you kept listening. One of the most important things I think anyone can do to help someone dealing with mental health is to listen. And I have a few phrases and words that can help emphasize that. Although it may seem repetitive in today's society, I really would like to emphasize person-first language. That is that we acknowledge the person first before the illness. This helps humanize people. So just like Mary Walsh was saying, instead of using the language like mental and crazy and stuff, it helps to use more supportive, positive language. So a person suffering from mental illness or someone who has a disorder. So here is from the Psychology Today website, and some of the most commonly held beliefs with mental health problems: that people are dangerous, especially those who suffer from schizophrenia, alcoholism, and drug dependence or abuse. People also believe that some mental health problems, such as eating disorders and substance abuse, are self-inflicted. That's not necessarily true. A lot of the time it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. Respondents believe that people with mental health problems are generally hard to talk to. And that's another thing that we're trying to break that stigma, so that when someone does come and reach out to you, you listen, and you can give them your support. So I talked earlier about some language I like to use. This is from the Bell Let's Talk website. They like to say phrases as, "I'm sorry you aren't feeling well. I've noticed you've seemed down lately. Is everything okay? And how can I help?" On the other side are phrases I think personally help me and are also really good to use. I acknowledge your feelings, and your feelings are valid. Do you want me to listen, or would you like any advice? You don't have to say anything, just know I'm here. So I like using these phrases to allow other people to feel supported. The language you use can be a huge factor in whether you are helping or upsetting someone. I personally try and stay away from phrases like, I understand, because you are not that person and you cannot fully understand how their mind works. But do not get me confused with not feeling empathy. You can be empathetic towards someone without totally understanding their situation and emotions. I also hope everyone has noticed how I've specifically been using the term mental health and not so much mental illness, because everyone has mental health, and just because you have not been specifically diagnosed with an illness does not make your feelings, thoughts, and behaviors any less valid. On my final slide, I have some resources here that are at McMaster. You can always go to studentwellness.mcmaster.ca for more. But there is the Swell, which is in the basement of Musk. It's just like a nice calming place. You can get tea, hang out there, have your lunch. I go there quite a lot, almost every day for lunch. There's also Student Wellness. You can see doctors, therapists. You can there's little like pamphlets there to help you understand certain issues. There's also Student Accessibility Service. So if you are finding you're struggling with something in school, you can go here and they will give you accommodations in your classes, and I think that was really important for me. There are also some good helplines, Coast and Good to Talk. I've used Good to Talk many times before. Sometimes if it's in the dead of night and you don't want to wake up your friends or something, they are a 24/7 hotline, so it's really good to talk to them. And that is all the resources, and that's the end of my slides. Okay. Just put that back up because it's nice pictures. Yes.
How easy was it for you to get an appointment with Student Wellness?
So it actually took me quite a few attempts, and sometimes I would be a total mess looking for help, for instant help right away. And going to Student Wellness in that moment did not help me. I don't know if it's changed, but when I went in my first year, you have to make a counseling appointment before you get to see like an actual counselor. It's kind of like a testing almost, or a trying of it. And so when I was really upset and I was like, I need to see someone now, they're like, oh, we don't have any appointments available. And I'm like, well, do you have someone who's like supposed to be for this stuff? And they didn't. So that was quite challenging. However, when I started to find I was getting to those stages where I was like starting to feel upset, but I could kind of keep myself together, I'd start to make appointments and go to that initial preliminary, I guess, counseling session, and then from there on, you talk to the person there to set you up with a specific counselor for your specific reasons, and they give you like a little worksheet to do, and then after you get that set up, then you can stay with this person for however long you need or whatever works with your schedule. That helped.
Yeah, just because I've heard like some people's concerns are like they can't get an appointment.
Yeah.
It's so busy. So like, what would you say to someone who's like, okay, I can't get an appointment. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
I also use the helplines a lot, the Good to Talk and the Coast. So if you can't get an immediate appointment and you need to talk to someone, calling these helplines are really helpful because they will be there right away. Again, another, I guess, kind of challenge for that is sometimes you are put on hold because, again, they don't have as many people. So I always try and say stay on for at least 15 minutes, and if you don't get a hold of an actual person within then you can either seek going to the hospital if you are in a real crisis, call 911, reach out to a friend or family member. Anyone else have any questions, comments, discussion? Yeah.
How did you find competing affected your anxiety? Because I think your drawing there of the driving the snow, it makes a lot of sense, and maybe some athletes find that when they're in competition and they're a little bit more stressed, it almost seems like that's when the snow starts to pile on.
Yeah.
So how did your experience, like how did you deal with competing on top of all this, and is there any strategies athletes can take to kind of simplify things when they go to compete?
Yeah. I remember the earliest thing that helped me is when I was in club swimming. I had a coach who, after each practice, we would get out and I would have a little journal. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old at this time, and we would write something I did well in practice today, something I could improve on, and something and then a goal. So I think little things like that really help. I specifically had my parents reach out to that coach and just like let them know that I have a little harder time, you know, pushing myself and doing these things. So little things like that helped me. In now my university and I guess my high school career as well, it was a lot of I guess self perseverance. I had to really push myself to go to practices sometimes, but I also found that I would let my coaches know right away. I find I'm a person who's pretty open about my anxiety and issue, and I like to let people know because once they know, they can help accommodate me. And it does get hard, especially being a swimmer. Like when I go up on the blocks and I'm about to dive in, it really does give me that pressure, maybe a little more intensified than other people. But at the same time, it shows I care. It shows I want to be part of this team. Having that little uneasiness just shows that, you know, I want to succeed. But I also have to take a step back and realize that if I don't, it's not the end of the world. And something I struggle with is what I call spiraling. So if something doesn't go my way, I go from best case scenario to worst case scenario in like 2.2 seconds flat. So I have to kind of step back and acknowledge that. But really talking to your coaches, I think, is a big helpful, I don't know, I can't think of the words right now. Idea, there we go, say that. Does that help answer it a little bit? I know I kind of rambled on there. Anyone else have anything? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, how did your coaches and teammates respond? Like, were you kind of surprised by their response when you started like kind of coming out with these issues a bit more and like being just like transparent and honest about them? Because I think a big issue for a lot of people is that we have these conversations and then like they may still go back to their teams and be like, but maybe my situation's not as severe, so I'm not gonna speak out about it, or like there still is stigma, so people are concerned with the way their teammates or coaches will respond in terms of like how serious they take it.
So in my first year, I had only told 2 of my coaches at the time what I was dealing with, and I hadn't really talked to another one. And one time I was suffering from a panic attack right before practice, and I had to go into the change room, and Ifrit was actually called on me, and the coach said, she came down and talked to me and said, you know what, you're not in high school anymore, you gotta get over this, you know, stop behaving like a teenager, you know, you gotta grow up. And that really hit hard because I was like, this isn't something I need to grow up from. It wasn't until after our training camp that I really began to open up to her and tell her, you know what, this is what I'm struggling with, and what you've been saying to me isn't helpful. It's actually making me feel a lot worse. I don't know if I forgot to tell you or what's going on, but I am struggling with this, so can you just kind of take that in consideration when you're talking to me about certain things? And I saw her mood change like almost instantly. You know, she'll ask me how I'm doing just like on a regular basis. And if I am stressed, I will tell my coaches, you know what, I'm feeling stressed before this practice. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stay the whole time or whatnot, and they're very understanding with that now that all of them know. So I hope that helped a little bit. Yes, Claire, you can say something.
We've talked about language as well too.
Yeah.
So is there been something in your personal experiences where language has played a part, you know, and how you've reacted to that and how that's affected you?
Yeah.
I guess you just already spoke to that.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
kind of speak to that. I also, I kind of like to say sometimes my anxiety can be kind of like a superpower. I find that I'm very empathetic and I have a really good intuition. And so I know a lot of people say the phrase like treat others how you want to be treated. But I also think that's hard when it comes to people dealing with mental illness, because sometimes the way you want to be treated isn't what they need necessarily. And so I really, I spoke about the staying away from the I understand statements, because for me personally, that's just not beneficial, because then I get stuck on that, and then I think, oh, you're trying to understand me, you don't understand me, you can't understand me. And that's what I get stuck on, instead of actually focusing on them trying to help me. So I think it's good to let my friends know of these, I guess, phrases and situations that do help me. And I've talked to my friends before, and like sometimes when I am upset and you guys don't know what to do, this is what helps me the best. Because again, I am an empathetic person, and I don't want how I'm feeling to kind of be cast on them and then they feel upset. So I just really try and focus on, again, supportive words, and a lot of like, I'm just here to listen, you know, you can just rant it out. And I also like the, if you are willing to give advice or just listen, I like giving that option, instead of people saying right away, oh, well, you should do this, or this is what I would do. Because that's all well and good for some people, but some people don't need that. So I think it's good if you ask, do you want advice, or do you want to just speak out, just vent, just so the person who's listening can get a better understanding to be supportive. Yeah.
Kind of like an open question. But if you could look back in the first year, like coming onto a varsity team, everyone's coming from different backgrounds. What do you think could be said by either the team or like the coaches at that time as like say first practice that would like put you more at ease, knowing like support systems exist? Like, do you think like right now people coming onto the teams feel like they understand like what's available to them, or even like what, you know, is like acceptable? Because things are changing really fast, and I'm just like curious looking back if you recall like things that coaches may have said back then, or like now that would help with like making that move and helping people feel more comfortable in that space.
Yeah, I found in my first year, my captains really helped. I reached out to my captains more so than my coaches, and it was my captains who told me the resources on campus. And through there, I reached out. There was the one in here, right out beside the fishbowl, or right before you come in. It was like the athletic counseling therapy thing. I don't know. It was specifically for illnesses and athletes. So they told me about that, which I had no idea even existed. So I thought reaching out to captains was really beneficial. They also told me to be, again, transparent and let the coaches know, so they have a general idea of what's going on. I think a lot of people coming into varsity sport feel they also can only go off their experiences, which would be club or high school or so on. And varsity sport is so different because you just have a lot more responsibility. You have to do a lot more time management. So that does weigh a lot on your mental health in general. So I think a lot of the teams here at MAC are really supportive, really welcoming. And I think the coaches, again, are a great team. I know I love my coaches. They're very supportive of me, and they help me through some hard times. Is that
Anything else for Aurora?
yeah? Oh, no, you're waiting. Or if anyone just wants to discuss anything